Hebrews, Hebrews, Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. This reading through the Tanak, night, 27th of November of 2024. Okay, we'll be dealing with the Book of Jubilees, working down some stuff in there. You can go to our YouTube channel, The Prophets of Awakening. Check out our videos. We have over 1,000 or so videos that you can look at. These videos will connect dots for you and lead you into the truth of the Holy Scriptures. And if you like what you're hearing and receiving on the channel, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It would be greatly appreciated. And our hours that we're live is Tuesday and Wednesday, 7 to 9 p.m. Central Time. We have 2 Shabbat classes on Saturday, 1 in the morning, 10 to 12 a.m., and then we close out the Shabbat in the evening, 6 to 7. Then we come back on Sundays. We have a little conversation at 5 p.m. Central Time every Sunday. Okay, so Sunday advanced Bible study. So with that being said, this is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with the Tanak and the Torah. Tanak being the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance, and the Torah is the 45 books of the Old Testament that was given to Moses by our Redeemer, the Lord of Hosts. Okay, shalom and welcome to this channel. Welcome to our reading through the Tanak. Okay, we're going to do our normal, which is a moment of silence, prayer, psalms, do some current events, need to know information. Then we'll open it up for some Q&A, dialogue, and then we'll go into our topic, which is I'll be reading out of the Book of Jubilees, reading and breaking down the scriptures. Okay. So with that being said, this moment of silence is for the Lord of Hosts, and all that He's doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance in these last days. Oh Lord, we come before Thee at this hour, praising You and honoring You because of Your position both in the heavens and upon the earth, position in which the Creator Yahweh have given unto Thee. And through Your Spirit and counsel, O Lord, we have awakened to know who we are as a people and who You are as our Savior and our Redeemer. And we are thankful for all that You have done, and we're eagerly searching out the scriptures that we may be in the right place at the right time upon Your arrival to this planet. We love You. We seek You daily, O Lord. There is none else besides Thee to redeem us. And we see You in the affairs of the world, and we faithfully await Your deliverance. Peace be unto You. Okay. Read the Psalms. Okay. Okay, I'm going to read Psalm 29. It's the voice of the Lord in the storm. It says, Give unto the Lord, O ye mighty. Give unto the Lord glory and strength. Give unto the Lord the glory due unto His name. Worship the Lord in the beauty of holiness. The voice of the Lord is upon the waters. The God of glory thundereth. The Lord is upon many waters. The voice of the Lord is powerful. The voice of the Lord is full of majesty. The voice of the Lord breaketh the cedars. Yea, the Lord breaketh the cedars of Lebanon. He maketh them also to skip like a calf. Lebanon and Syria like a young unicorn. The voice of the Lord divideth the flames of fire. The voice of the Lord shaketh the wilderness. The Lord shaketh the wilderness of Kadesh. The voice of the Lord maketh the hinds to calves, and discovereth the forest. And in His temple doeth every one speak of His glory. The Lord sitteth upon the flood. Yea, the Lord sitteth king forever. The Lord will give strength unto His people. The Lord will bless His people with peace. Okay, so that was Psalms 29, the voice of the Lord in the storm. So like I said before, you see how this opens up, and it says that the voice of the Lord sits upon many waters. And like I said, you can cross-reference that to Genesis chapter 1, verse 2, and you'll see it's the Lord of hosts that was sitting on the flood in the very beginning. Okay. So with that being said, we go to our current events, and we'll play them and then we'll talk about it. Okay.
Professor Wolf, go. I know we have like 5 minutes left with him, so I just want to, I feel like if we didn't address immigration, that we really would be remiss in this conversation. So
Absolutely.
now I will say, I personally believe that there will be an incredible humanitarian cost to deporting 11 million people. But I'm hoping that the cold, hard economic facts of enacting this policy might cause people to reconsider their support for mass deportation. So I was hoping maybe you could share some of your thoughts on the economic impact of this policy, what it would cost for the US government to try to do this, what the repercussions would be on the average American. I mean, if people are worried about the price of eggs and bacon, deporting the people who work in, agriculture and food production doesn't seem to me to be the way to lower those prices. But what would you say would be some of the economic consequences?
Yes. Before I do, let me also say, and maybe I'm wrong here, I hope not. For better or worse, and often it's worse, but sometimes it's better, America is a very religious place. And all of the major religions here, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, they all say that what Allah or God or whatever it is you believe in wants you to do is to welcome the refugee, to open your arms, to open your heart, to give him a meal, to do all the things that the Bible and other holy books tell us to do. I think you're going to see, maybe sooner than you imagine, an immense reaction in this country, which will be driven by a well-deserved guilt on the part of this population for what they are doing. And, I feel that as strongly as I feel the guilt that will descend on the Jewish people for what has happened in Gaza. But putting that aside, here's the economics that you've asked about. The Department of Homeland Security says there's somewhere between 10 and 12 million undocumented immigrants in the United States. So as an economist, let me make one thing clear. We are a rich country of 330 million people. The economic problems we have, which are severe, could not ever have been caused by 10 to 12 of the poorest people on the planet. The notion that the immigrants are a cause of the problems we face is stone cold ridiculous. It may be a clever scapegoating, it may work to get you votes, but it has nothing to do with reality. Number two, there are certain industries that concentrate undocumented immigrants. Agriculture is a big one. The restaurant business is a big one. Construction is another big one. And then there's a whole host of other industries, but those are the big ones. In those industries, undocumented immigrants are a major part of the labor force. Not only that, they are a more important cause of the profitability in those industries than their mere numbers would tell you. Why? Because an undocumented immigrant can be and is regularly abused by the employer for the obvious reason, which if you have any contact with these folks, they'll tell you 10 different stories. I've heard them all. It's Friday afternoon. Everybody's going to pick up their check at the front office before they go home. Jose arrives. He stands in line, waits for his check. The boss says, Jose, we've had a terrible week. We didn't make the money. I can't pay you this week. But if you come back next week, I can be sure to pay. What is Jose going to do? Answer, nothing. He dare not go to any government office because he's an undocumented. He can't show a paper. He can't show a residence allowance, nothing. He's terrified of going anywhere near the labor office. There's nothing he can do. And the employer knows it. The employers look for these people because of this. And I'm not going to take your time and mine to talk about the abuse, sexual and other, that this situation invites in all the ways you don't need me to tell you about. Okay, now let's imagine you deport them. First of all, that costs billions, because you're talking about 10 to 12 million people. You have to house them, you have to move them, you have to feed them in the process, you have to deal with the umpteen million lawsuits that will immediately crop up around all of this. This is going to take time, and it's going to cost personnel, and it's going to be an immense expense. But that's the least of it. Here comes the big one. Every one of those industries is a crucial player in the inflation level of the United States. Who's going to pick the lettuce? Who's going to pick the fruit? Who's going to do all that work? Who's going to clean the dishes in the back of the restaurant? Who's going to clean up at the end, the evening when the patrons of the restaurant go home? Well, the answer is you either close the restaurant, and that has economic consequences, or you close the farms, and that's really not an option, or you're going to have to hire Americans. And Americans won't be afraid to go to the labor office if you don't pay them. So you're going to actually have to pay them. And you're probably going to have to pay them a good bit more than the immigrant for all the reasons you normally pay immigrants less than native workers, which means the cost structure of these industries is going to take off. And you know what they're all going to do, those employers? They're going to raise their prices. They're going to want to do that to recapture the extra costs that will come. And the government has not proposed anything that will substitute here. I've heard one professor tell me, oh, we don't have to worry, AI will take care of this. You know what AI does? It makes people like you and me superfluous. But are we ready to go and wash dishes at the back of the restaurant? Are we ready to pick apples? Really? You're gonna cause social upheaval. You're gonna cause inflation. Mr. Trump can't do that. Inflation is half of why he got elected.
True.
How can he turn around and then be the person who has to go on TV and try to explain why he promised to deal with inflation, only it's gotten worse?
Okay. Anybody got any comments on that? That's the repercussions to Trump deportation plan, saying that it's going to destroy the economy. Can anybody relate to that? Okay. Got another right here.
The most pro-Israel cabinet in the history of the United States. I've investigated its funders. It's not looking good. Donald Trump will repeat the mantra,
America first, America first, America first.
but when you look down his list of funders, it seems like it might just be Israel first. Donald Trump selected Pete Hegseth as his Secretary of Defense. Pete Hegseth called for Trump to bomb Iranian energy and nuclear facilities.
What better time than now to say, we're starting the clock. You've got a week. You've got X amount of time before we start taking out your energy production facilities. We take out key infrastructure. We take out your missile sites. We take out nuclear development.
That is
we
not
take
a
out
popular idea.
capabilities.
And here Hegseth is advocating for Israel replacing Al-Aqsa with what he calls the Third Temple.
1948 was a miracle. 1967 was a miracle. 2017, the declaration of Jerusalem as the capital was a miracle. And there's no reason why the miracle of the reestablishment of the temple on the Temple Mount is not possible.
And what about Trump's ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee? He has publicly claimed there is no occupation of the West Bank, and he refuses to refer to the West Bank as anything but Judea and Samaria.
There is no such thing as a West Bank. It's Judea and Samaria. There's no such thing as a settlement. They're communities, they're neighborhoods, they're cities. There's no such thing as an occupation.
Trump has also selected Elise Stefanik as his US ambassador to the United Nations. She's someone who has gone on record as saying that nothing Israel ever does could cause the United States to remove funding from it.
There is no excuse for an American president to block aid to Israel. No excuse, full stop. That's why I'm proud to have sponsored or backed every measure to aid Israel that has come before the United States Congress. Every single one.
They say follow the money, so I did. To start with, Sheldon Adelson bankrolled Donald Trump's first election as president of the United States. Sheldon Adelson very publicly supported the use of nuclear weapons against Iran.
You pick up your cell phone and you call somewhere in Nebraska and you say, okay, let it go. So there's an atomic weapon goes over ballistic missiles in the middle of the desert that doesn't hurt a soul. Maybe a couple of rattlesnakes and scorpions or whatever. And then you say, see, the next one is in the middle of Tehran.
His request from Trump prior to the election was that if Trump arrived in the White House, he would recognize occupied Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights of Syria as part of Israel. Trump did that.
I gave them Golan Heights. I gave them the Abraham Accords. I recognized the capital of Israel and opened the embassy in Jerusalem. And most importantly of all, I terminated the Iran nuclear deal. I was there 4 years, gave them billions and billions of dollars. I was the best friend Israel ever had.
Today, one of Trump's largest funders, giving him $100 million, is the widow of Sheldon Adelson, Miriam Adelson.
He promised to recognize Jerusalem and to move the embassy to Jerusalem. Promise kept. He promised to withdraw from Iran nuclear deal. Promise kept. In Golan Heights, that was a big gift. He promised Golan Heights and he recognized him.
Adelson requested from Trump prior to this election that once he was in the White House, he would recognize, quote unquote, Israeli sovereignty over the West Bank. Donald Trump has given the signal that he will support this move to annex the West Bank and establish Israeli sovereignty over it. Smotrich, the Israeli finance minister, has come out and stated very clearly that 2025 will be the year of sovereignty for Israel over Judea and Samaria, the word that he uses to refer to the West Bank.
אני מתכוון בעזרת השם להוביל בהמשך החלטת ממשלה שקובעת שממשלת ישראל תפעל מול הנשיא החדש מול הממשל החדש, של הנשיא טראמפ, מול הקהילה הבינלאומית, להחלת הריבונות הישראלית ביהודה ושומרון, להכרה אמריקאית ובינלאומית.
When we look at not only Miriam Adelson as one of his key funders, we also see other individuals who are likely to be pushing Trump in the same direction. Isaac Perlmutter and his wife have also bankrolled Donald Trump's presidential
These are Edomites. These are Jews. Okay.
Campaign. Isaac Perlmutter is a former Israeli soldier and the former chair of Marvel Entertainment. The same family foundation of the Perlmutters that funded Donald Trump's ascent to the presidency also funds the Friends of the IDF and illegal Israeli settlements in the West Bank. Isaac Perlmutter's wife was on Donald Trump's inauguration committee last time he was elected president. Another important source of funds in this presidential campaign has been the company Uline, headed by Richard Uline, which contributed over $10 million to the Trump campaign. Richard Uline has a history of funding organizations which docked Palestinian and pro-Palestinian students in the United States. The companies backed by Uline put the pictures and personal details of pro-Palestinian students on the side of trucks. They sought to get these students expelled from their university. Another key funder of Donald Trump's presidential campaign was the Andreessen Horowitz investment fund. Now, Andreessen Horowitz is so deeply integrated with the Israeli occupation that it funds and partially owns several key Israeli intelligence companies, like Tanak, which was founded by the former head of Israeli intelligence and former Prime Minister Ehud Barak. Tanak claims that it is a one-stop hacking shop which can hack not only smartphones, but also smart technology within homes and fridges of individuals which governments may want to know more about. Another company partially owned by Andreessen Horowitz is Wiz, founded by Asaf Rappaport, a former high-ranking officer from Unit 8200, the military intelligence signals section of the Israeli occupation forces. So here is an organization that is directly invested in Israeli intelligence companies, also funding Donald Trump at the same time. How could we not mention Elon Musk? His company, SpaceX, donated to the Donald Trump presidential campaign almost $120 million. Now, what is Elon Musk's relationship with Israel? What many do not know is that his company, SpaceX, launched several satellites for Israeli company ImageSat International. Now, ImageSat International is not only led by reserves in the Israeli military and former employees of Israel's largest company, Elbit Systems, but it is a key source for Israeli Unit 9900, which is the Visual Intelligence Unit. ImageSat International and the spy satellites which have been launched for it by Elon Musk will be essential to all of its bombing campaigns. In fact, historically, it's known that ImageSat International have been a key part of Israel's thousands of bombing sorties over Syria. The fact that this was not seen as a conflict of interest for Elon Musk to, at the same time, be running X, formerly known as Twitter, but also launching spy satellites to assist in Israel's bombing campaigns, is quite indicative of a wider rot within our media and political classes. Another key funder of Trump is Primerica Distribution, which contributed $5 million to his campaign. Now, Primerica Distribution also funds the key Israel lobby group, the ADL, which has been found to have infiltrated many political groups and spied on pro-Palestinian and Palestinian Americans. Trump also received another $5 million from the investment firm Elliott Management, headed by Paul E. Singer, a donor to the Friends of the IDF, the Birthright Foundation, and the Israel Independence Fund. But more interestingly than that, Paul E. Singer is the founder of the Startup Nation Central organization. This is an organization which has siphoned former employees of the Israeli military, and particularly Israel's Unit 8200, into big tech companies in order to combat BDS and also direct jobs within the tech sector into Israel. Trump's policy in the region will also call upon his reliable allies in Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, is somebody that grew up so close to Netanyahu that when Netanyahu would come and stay in New York, he would sometimes stay in the bedroom of Jared Kushner. Under Trump's watch, Kushner set up, alongside the Saudi Arabian and UAE governments, something called Affinity Partners. Kushner described it as a corridor for Gulf investment in Israel. So Affinity Partners, which was started with Saudi and UAE money, billions of dollars, is now an owner of Phoenix Holdings. Phoenix Holdings is an Israeli investment firm which partly owns Elbit Systems, Israel's largest arms company. 85% of the drones used by Israel on the West Bank and Gaza come from Elbit Systems. Phoenix Holdings has also sponsored and ensured infrastructure and building projects in illegal Israeli settlements, and even provides the funding for a wind energy plant located in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights of Syria. The Jared Kushner Saudi and UAE funded project Affinity Partners is also currently a shareholder in the Shlomo Group, an Israeli corporation. The Shlomo Group produces the most valuable ships in the Israeli military. The Trump era led to a deeper integration between Israel's security services and both the UAE and Saudi Arabia. Maximalist Zionist strategy and the integration of the region's militaries with Israel's military and security services. Were this any other interest group, individuals with relationships to a foreign state funding a political campaign, it would be seen as foreign interference. In fact, Trump was so servile to Israel during his time in the White House that John Sawyers, the former head of Britain's external intelligence agency, MI6, said the following about him. Trump was easily the most manipulated US president Israel has ever enjoyed. He recognized Israel's illegal annexation of the Syrian Golan Heights, which no other country has done. Trump's proposals for a solution to Palestine were largely written by the Israelis. The most aggressive groups among the Zionists have welcomed Donald Trump's election, with Daniel Luria, somebody who has a reputation for seizing Palestinian land in Jerusalem over many years, welcoming this situation. He has said Israel could never have asked for anything more than this. We have got a very unique situation now to really have literally a new Middle East. And
Okay. Any comments on that? What you think? Yeah, so what you see now is this how he's able to get out of all the stuff he got out of. This how he won the election. You got these Edomites. It's, like I said, you understand what all this is about. They're circling the wagon. Like I said, their objective is to rebuild that temple in Jerusalem, just like they told the Most High. Let's go look at it right quick. Some people might not be familiar with it. So in 70 AD, that's when Esau was kicked out of the land, not us, not the Israelites, but the Edomites kicked out in 70 AD. So we're gonna go to the last book of our scriptures. That's in Malachi, right? So when you go to Malachi, you see that. Let me get it. Malachi says in chapter 1, the Lord talking to Esau, because he's the one that's in the land of Israel in 70 AD, right? It says, the burden of the word of the Lord by Malachi. I have loved you, saith the Lord. Yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, saith the Lord? And yet I loved Jacob, and I hated Esau, with the Lord of hosts talking. And I laid his mountain and his heritage to waste for the dragons of the wilderness, right? So let's see where this place is at. Where he at. Verse 4. Wherefore, the Lord told him, you're gonna tear down his habitation, right? Verse 4. Whereas Edom said, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places, right? Thus says the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the borders of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord have indignation forever. Then verse 5 tell you where they was at. And your eyes shall see, and ye shall say, the Lord will be magnified from the borders of Israel. So they in the land of Israel, posting the Israelites. Way back in 70 AD. He ran them out. He used the Romans and Titus and Vespasian, and he ran them out. But they told him before they left, though you run us out of here, we're going to find a way back. So in the process of time, 2,500 years, in 1948, they came back, like they said. And their objective is to rule the world from Jerusalem for 1,000 years. And they want to build a temple, right? So what you say, what are you talking about? The first temple that was built was Solomon built it. Nebuchadnezzar tore it down. Then he came back, well, he brought the Israelites, the Lord of hosts brought the Israelites back with Zerubbabel, and he rebuilt the temple, Zerubbabel temple. Then Antioch Epiphanes, which nobody talks about, came and tore down Zerubbabel temple. Then these Edomites built Herod temple. Herod is an Edomite. That temple wasn't authorized, and they tore it down. Titus and Vespasian tore that temple down. They came back in 1948, and their objective is to rebuild that temple. They're not authorized by the Most High or by heaven to build no temple in Jerusalem. but they built the Harris Temple, and it was torn down by Titus and Vespasian. And like I said, right here in this verse, in this chapter of Malachi, chapter 1, last book of the Old Testament, they bowed to the Most High, the Lord of hosts. They were going to return, and they came back in 1948. And what we're looking at now, they orchestrating to, the objective is to rebuild this temple. And they using Donald Trump to do it. Like I said, I was talking to somebody the other day, everybody saying Trump, this Trump. No, it's not Trump. It's these Edomites. It's behind the scene. They got him out there in the forefront. They're using him. They're riding behind him to deceive everybody and to bring about what they're trying to accomplish. And now it's all coming to the forefront. If you got eyes to see and ears to hear, you can see it's all coming to the forefront. So that Project 25, all is tied to what these Edomites trying to accomplish over in the land of Israel. Okay. Any comments or questions on that? Okay, so with that being said, and what I just revealed, we're gonna build on that with this next need to know information. Okay, maybe you get a grasp of what's really going on. It's another Edomite talking, right? Check it out.
You feel like you're going back in time. Because this interview is going to make you feel like you're going back in time. Let's go.
So you want to live in a white-only country?
Not necessarily white only, but a country that is clearly based on a European model, in which whites will basically remain the overwhelming majority in perpetuity.
Okay, how do you achieve it?
It's a week ago.
Well, that's an excellent question. Donald Trump has got some first good steps in mind. He wants to make sure no more illegal immigrants come into the country, and he wants to make sure that all illegal immigrants here go back. He wants to end birthright citizenship. He wants to put at least a temporary ban on Muslim immigration.
What happens with Asians? What happens with African Americans? What happens with Latinos?
What happens to my
You presented me with a very limited view of the United States.
You're saying the United States is a place anybody can come and turn it into anything you want, and the people who built this country and established its institutions, if they glimmer away, so what? You are promoting a process that will reduce my people to a minority. You want more power for Latinos. That comes at the expense of my people's power.
We're 17% of the population,
right,
and we only have 3 senators. So therefore, we don't have the political representation that we deserve.
And you want more and more?
Of course, because we only have 3 senators.
How much political?
At this point, 14 senators.
And 50 years from now, how many would you like?
Let's talk about 50 years from now. In 2044,
yes,
white, non-Hispanics will become a minority.
Yes.
Is that what you are afraid of?
Mr. Ramos, it's fantastic for you, for my people to lose power and become a minority. That's fantastic for you. How does it feel for
Because
me?
it is our country.
Our country.
It is our country. Do you think we both have the same rights in this country?
I think that despite this nonsense in the Declaration about anybody being white
You
people,
don't think we are all created equal?
no, what you want to do is change this country into an entire nation in which white people will become refugees in their own land if your vision comes through.
You don't want to live alongside Mexicans.
Now, why is it wrong for me not to want my neighborhood to change? If my neighborhood is European, my neighborhood, they don't keep chickens in the backyard that crow at 3 in the morning. They don't.
That's a complete stereotype. That's a complete stereotype.
Yes, and stereotypes are all true.
It's a racist stereotype, what you're saying.
Oh, racist! Give me a break. No.
What are you going to do with the thousands of Muslims, American citizens, who are serving in the military?
I'm sure that we just couldn't possibly survive with all those Muslim Navy Rangers. Yes, I'm sure that's true.
That is not right.
No, I'm talking
You
about
cannot make fun of people who are saving our lives.
They want special holidays and special food.
So if you don't like their religion, you don't have to join them. That's fine.
No, they are.
But you can't discriminate against them simply because you.
Of course, anyone should have the right to discriminate against anyone he wishes. And the point is,
but not by the law, Mr. Taylor. You can't do that.
I think the law is absolutely incorrect.
Do you feel that whites are superior, are more intelligent than blacks?
I think on average, whites are more intelligent than blacks, and North Asians are more intelligent than whites.
How can you say that?
How can you think otherwise?
Mr. Taylor,
what sense would you have to think that a pygmy is, on average, is just as intelligent as a Dane? Why would you think that? It's completely consistent with the assumption that Black Africans are less intelligent on average than Asians or Caucasians.
That's absurd. That's repugnant and absurd.
Why would you even entertain the possibility that on average a pygmy is as intelligent as a Japanese?
The comparison that you are trying to make, it is simply impossible because of historical circumstances, because economic conditions, because of the moment.
We have to be willing to say to all those who are non-European, we wish you well, but this territory is for us. And sorry, we have the right to be us, and only we can be us.
Our tribal ape instincts still continue to have an influence on how we exist in society when it comes to our skin color and what happens to be between our legs. But that's not what makes us us. What makes each person themselves is what makes them themselves. Counterproductive, right? It's the things that we enjoy doing. It's the things that interest us. It's the knowledge that we have. It's what we can bring to society that is not our amount of melanin or what's underneath our clothing. This regressive mindset is destroying people. It's not allowing them to experience life to its fullest, and it's keeping them hating one another for things that cannot be changed about themselves. So this is one of those instances where I'm going to be intolerant. I am intolerant to intolerance. And I hope y'all are too.
It is for sure unfortunate that we have to give such people platforms to come and spew these racist or discriminatory comments about people, and they don't have to take accountability for it, especially as a white person, because tell me why this man is talking about how Black people are literally dumb and docile. Like we don't have any sense, you know. It's them that are on top of the chain. And of course he's saying all these things because he knows their own is now in power. They have like majority of the power, whatever. So he thinks things are gonna go in their way.
Okay. So what you think about that? Anybody got any comments on that? Let's say the plan is coming out. It's coming to the forefront. Exactly what they want to do. Okay. And we didn't sit there and help them bring it to pass. We're getting ready to implement it. Okay. So with that being said, I'm gonna open it up for some Q&A. Anybody have any questions or comments about anything they want to talk about? Or something they came across they want to deal with it? Okay. Play this right here. I mean, I talked about this before, but I just want to put the nail in the coffin, you know, because I don't want to feel like I was
assassination.
I said something.
Where is his king?
I didn't know nothing about it. So this is about what happened with Marcus Garvey and who was behind it. And then this is a prime example of how we've been brainwashed, and they gave us leaders that had, you know, nothing to do with us, and we glorify these leaders, but these leaders are all part of the plan they use to keep us down, keep us where we are today.
King and his kingdom. Where is his president, his country, his men of big affairs?
Marcus Garvey.
I could not find them. And then I declared, I will help to make them. My brain was afire.
It must have been hell to see and to feel and to cry in pain, in denial, before the rebel is born out of a man. Marcus Garvey was a hero, crying amidst the dense darkness of the hellish treatment witnessed by him against his people. The man, Garvey, had seen and embraced the distinct fact that every human called Black is one, for they were all treated alike. And because they were all treated alike, they have got to come together by every means constructively necessary to help themselves out.
You was oppressed and depressed and disgusted that you were born in the wrong race of people because of your color. Whatever was left, that's what you got. I wonder what was left. And we were at the lowest ebb at that time. the black people was.
When we walk along the plank walks, they didn't have sidewalks in New Orleans at that time, but you'd walk along the plank walk. But if a white person came along, no matter who it was, a white child, a white man, a white woman, if they came along, you had to get off the plank walk and stand in the mud until they passed.
And now we are going into details on Marcus's activities and the ingredients that spurred him on and compelled the radicalization of his philosophy and vision for his black brothers and sisters. Only sit back with a dispassionate view, and let's all walk into that part that Marcus Garvey cried so hard about for a moment. Support our works by hitting on that like button in front of you with your families and friends to keep spreading our eye-opening black narrative, and kindly subscribe to stay with us for more interesting updates, whilst you also help in building the rising membership of this channel. Let us delve in. On July 2nd, 1917, just months after America's entry into World War I, the city of East St. Louis had exploded with the worst racial riot the country had ever seen. 39 whites and hundreds of African Americans had been killed that day.
You have black troops going off to fight to make the world safe, democracy in April, and in July, you have black people being murdered in the most wanton and barbaric manner in East.
To the reclaimed.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is fast forward it. I want for you to hear the fact that W.E. Du Bois, they glorify him, but he's the one that put the nail in the coffin with Marcus Garvey, right? But they got us, we worshiping him and praising him for some kind of black pioneer, but let's check it out.
Homelands in Africa, providing a financial base for support of the UNIA movement and earning respect for black enterprises through a successful showing of the UNIA flag. Garvey offered shares of stock in the new company at $5 per share, and within a year, the line had raised $610,000 and owned 3 ships. This was a huge success in motion, but some things were at stake. UNIA businesses had begun to flounder, as Garvey was into hiring managers with little or no experience. Not that he could be blamed for this. Blacks knew so little then, or knew nothing at all. As a consequence, Garvey was known to shifting funds from one company to cover the mounting losses accruing in another. Even if the business practices of the Black Star Line's officers had been above reproach, the corporation still would have had great difficulty keeping its flag above water. And why? Its unwise purchase of dubious ships at exorbitant prices was a handicap from which even a more soundly managed company would have been hard put to survive. The thing was, Garvey needed more minds like himself on the table. There's no way to succeed for long with all the antagonisms and hate games going on, from the American government, worse still, from his own people. With the Black Star Line, Garvey's own star rose and fell. Rather than providing a financial base for the UNIA, the Black Star Line succeeded in draining the UNIA's assets, dragging the organization's other operations under with it. Garvey was forced to sell off property and equipment. Beset by problems, both internal and external, Garvey attempted to keep his fledgling steamship line afloat through the sale of more stock. This sale of stock, or more precisely Garvey's stock solicitation through the mail, led to his arrest, conviction, and eventual deportation for mail fraud. Garvey was indicted on 13 counts of mail fraud in February of 1922. However, the indictment and subsequent trial are not isolated events. They must be viewed in the historical context of Garvey's struggle with the existing power structure. There are several aspects of the trial and the circumstances leading up to it that illuminate a discussion of the power phenomenon. Number 1, the atmosphere of hostility surrounding Garvey before and during the trial. Number 2, the extensive government surveillance Garvey was under, surveillance that shaped the outcome of the trial. And 3, whether or not Garvey received an unbiased, fair trial. Garvey's indictment coincided with a vigorous "Garvey must go" campaign. This was even spearheaded by several prominent Negro leaders who vehemently
Negro
opposed
leaders.
Garvey's programs for no justifiable reason, although the attack centered on the allegations that Garvey was a charlatan bent on milking the poor, ignorant masses of black people. Garvey's own mismanagement of the Black Star Line and his overly optimistic declarations of how close the race was to achieving the repatriation of Africa fed the Garvey must go hysteria. Garvey also became the black media's target for character assassination. W.E.B. Du Bois, a black man with his political influence at the time, who could have joined forces with Garvey for the betterment of blacks, whose liberation he claimed to champion, was in the forefront of the campaign against Marcus Garvey. He had written an article critically evaluating the Black Star Line's finances, questioning the existence of worthless ships, and calling to task the habit of selling passenger tickets on non-existent ships scheduled to sail to Liberia. Du Bois accused Garvey of robbing his investors, dishonesty, a lack of knowledge and experience, and of using the males in furtherance of a scheme to defraud and conspiring to do so. And the talk about Liberia, this clearly had to do with sabotage. Du Bois had played a glaring role in this, which makes some wonder now what Du Bois' true motive or ambition for Black Americans had been all along. Du Bois was from a more privileged background and felt he could improve the condition of African Americans.
So that's our story right there. Got all these Negroes that ain't Israelites, and they bring them out, and we sitting there thinking they're Israelites. They ain't Israelites. So this dude right here, W. Du Bois, he praised all over the place in all these HBCU schools. He praised, but he the one that brought Marcus Garvey down. Okay, but so let me deal with this right quick. Okay, yeah. All you gotta do is call. You can call 337-802-0889, and then you're able to get a link. You can send you the link, or you can come into the class. So yeah. Okay. So with that being said, anybody have any comments or questions on that? Before I start reading out of the Book of Jubilees. Okay. I'm gonna read. I'm gonna start reading at 14, and then I'll go to. I'll break it down as I go. Each chapter. So I'm in Jubilees, Book of Jubilees, chapter 14. Okay, it says, after these things in the 4th year of this week, on the like I said before, what you have to understand about the Book of Jubilees is in heaven. It's 337-802-0889. 0889. Okay, so what the thing about the Book of Jubilees is, it's the angels telling the story. The same stories that we read about in the King James, we getting it from the in the Book of Jubilees. It's coming from the angels' perspective. They're telling you what happened, and the reason why it's called Jubilees is because of 7 times 7, a week of years. 7 times 7, 49, and the 50th week is a Jubilee. 50th year. So that's why Jubilees is why it's called Jubilees. And they're telling the story in Jubilees every 50 years is how they keep time, right? So it says, after these things in the 4th year of this week, so right, week of years, right? On the new moon of the 3rd month, the word of the Lord came to Abraham in a dream, saying, "Fear not, Abraham, I am your defender, and your reward will be very great." He said, "Lord, Lord." So what this is Jubilees 14 is actually telling the story from an angel perspective, what happened in Genesis 15 with Abraham wanting a seed and all that, okay, and then Isaac coming. So it says, verse 2, he said, "Lord, Lord, what will you give me, seeing I go from here childless, and the son of Meshach, the son of my handmaiden, Eliezer of Damascus. He will be my heir. Okay, yeah, he will be my heir. Okay. He will be my heir. Says, and the heir, and to me, you have given no offspring. And he said to him, this man will not be your heir, but one that will come out of your bowels. He will be your heir. And he brought him out abroad and said to him, look toward the heavens and number the stars if you are able to number them. And he looked toward heaven and beheld the stars. And he said to him, so shall your offspring be. And he believed in the Lord, and it was counted to him as righteousness. And God said unto him, I am the Lord that brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give you the land of the Canaanites, to possess it forever. I will be God to you and to your offspring after you. So this is one of the verses I want to shine a light on. Is the understanding go right over a lot of people's head when you understand who the Lord of hosts is, right? It says, verse 7, God said to him, said to Abraham, I am the Lord. We know that Yahweh and the Lord are two different beings. The Lord of hosts is Michael is the Lord of hosts. He's over the Most High's. He's over the Most High's host. He's over all the angels. He created him. He's the one over all the angels. His name means he who is like Yahweh. So listen what he says. God said to him, I am the Lord that brought you up out of Ur of the Chaldeans. So it wasn't Yahweh that brought him out of Ur of the Chaldeans. It was the Lord of hosts. Michael was sent to bring him out of Ur of the Chaldeans. So he says, I am the Lord that brought you up out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give you the land of Canaan to possess it forever. And I will, see this, I will be your God. I will be a God to you and to your offspring after you. This is who the Israelites dealing with, not Yahweh, right? And then he says, and he said, Lord, Lord, how shall I know that I shall inherit? Okay, let me look at it. How shall I know I should inherit it? And then it says, and God said to him, take me a heifer 3 years old, a goat for 3 years, a sheep for 3 years, and a turtle dove and a pigeon. And he took all these in the middle of the month, and he dwelt at the oak of Mamre, which is near Hebron. So I want to break that down. Verse 10 says, he took all these in the middle of the month, and he dwelt at the oak of Mamre, which is near Hebron, right? So Hebron is where later on you're going to find that's where David was at, in Hebron. But let's look at it. We'll go to the King James. So it says he dwelt at the oak of Mamre, right? So we're going to go to Genesis chapter 18, right? Okay, and then we're going to see that I got videos on this, but it says, starting at verse 1, Genesis 18, and the Lord appeared unto him in the plains of Mamre. To go Mamre. I just read over there in Jubilees, the oak of Mamre. So who is Mamre? It's a giant. It's a giant. Mamre is a giant. He's one of when the spies went into the land that Moses sent there. He saw the children of Anak, and one of them was Mamre. So Abraham was in the region where Mamre is. So it says, and the Lord appeared unto him in the plains of Mamre. See that? Where the giant dwell at. In the heat of the day, and he sat in the tent in the heat of the day. And he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men. So this is my point right here. One of the points to show you that they're not dealing with the Lord Yahweh, they're dealing with his angel. So verse 2, and he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men stood by him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them by the tent door, bowed himself toward the ground, and he said, my Lord. See that? Lord, same Lord over there in Jubilees. My Lord, if now I found favor in thy sight, pass not away, I pray thee, from thy servant. Then he says, verse 4, let a little water, I pray thee, be fetched, right? and wash your feet and rest yourselves under the tree. So keep in mind, these three men, three angels. Now one of them is Yahweh. One of these angels is the Lord. So it says, 5, I will fetch a morsel of bread, comfort your hearts. That said, after that ye shall pass on. Therefore are ye come to your servant. And they said, do so as thou hast said. And Abraham hastened into the tent under the saddle and said, make ready quickly 3 morsels of fine meal, knead it, make cakes upon the heap. Then Abraham ran unto the herd, fetched a calf, tender and good, gave it unto the young man, and he hastened to dress it. Now here we go, right here. 8. And he took the butter, the milk, the calf, which he had dressed, and he set it before them, before these 3 angels. And he stood by them under the tree, and they did eat. So what tree? What I just showed you over here. Over here in Jubilees, what I just read. He says, let me get it. Say, and he took off, I'm in verse 10 of Jubilees chapter 14, and he took all these in the middle of the month, and he dwelt at the oak of Mamre. That's a tree, same tree that's over here in Genesis 18. Okay, at the oak of Mamre, which is near Hebron, and he built an altar there, and he sacrificed all these. He poured their blood on the altar, divided them in half, and he laid them over against each other, but the birds he did not divide. Birds came down on the pieces. Abraham drove them away and did not permit the birds to touch them. And it happened when the sun had set. So this is the same story over in Genesis 15, right? So it says, it happened when the sun had set that an ecstasy fell on Abraham, such as a horror of great darkness fell upon him. And it was said to Abraham, know of a surety that your offspring shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and they shall be, here you go right here. So they say, the narrative now is they're saying that this is 400-year prophecy in America. But I beg to differ, right? So it says, verse 13, it happened when the sun had set that the ecstasy fell on Abraham, and such a horror of a great darkness fell upon him. And it was said to Abraham, know of a surety that your offspring shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and they shall be brought into bondage, right? And afflicted for 400 years. So this is where they're not getting the understanding that bondage, they're going to be brought into bondage and afflicted 400 years. So the 400 years is not all affliction. When Moses came on the scene is when affliction started, but they had already been brought there from when the famine came about. And they came into Egypt. That's when they was brought there, and then the Egyptians sustained them. That's why the Egyptians felt like they had the right to afflict them and bring them under servitude. So we can't just look at the 400 years and say, oh, that ain't the 400 years because of the affliction. The affliction is part of it. It's servitude with affliction is what makes up the 400 years, right? So 14, and the nation also to whom they will be in bondage will I judge, and after that they shall come out from the place with many possessions, and then ye shall go to your fathers in peace and be buried in a good old age. So when Abraham done this, like I said, he's at the oak in Mamre in the land of Canaan. So notice what he telling him. He in the land of Canaan. You will go to your fathers in peace, be buried in a good old age. But in the 4th generation, they, his seed, his children, shall return here to the land of Canaan, not America. See that? They will return here, right? The oak of Mamre ain't in America. So anyway, he says, but the 4th generation shall return here for the iniquity of the Amorites. The Amorites ain't in America. They're in the land of Canaan. See, so the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. And he awoke from the sleep, and he arose, and the sun had set, and there was a flame. Check it out. It's another example right here where we reading over. You know, we're not thinking like Hebrews. It says, and he awoke from his sleep, right? Arose, and the sun had set, and there was a flame. Check it out. There was a flame, and a furnace was smoking, and the flame of fire passed between the pieces. See that? So this flame of fire, this ain't a regular flame of fire. So let's look at it. Let's go to Exodus chapter 3 and show you, like I say, it's not Yahweh. It's the Lord of hosts, right? The Most High right-hand man, the strong one, okay? That he came, he gave Israel. He sent him to Egypt and to deliver the Israelites, and they became his possession. So anyway, it says, Exodus chapter 3, right? So they the way they have it worded in the King James is, you know, to throw you off. But let's look at it. Exodus, okay, chapter 3, right? So I'm in chapter 3 right here, right? Remember what I just read: a flame, of fire. Abraham laid out the pieces, and a flame of fire, a flame, a lamp like a fire came and passed it through the pieces. So this ain't no regular fire, right? It's got human characteristics, right? Intelligence. So chapter 3, right? Now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the backside of the desert, came to the mountain of God, right? I just showed you that. He told them, I'm gonna be a God to you. Not Yahweh, but because of who I am, I'm gonna be a God to you, to the Israelites. So he says, now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, and the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the backside of the desert, and he came to the mountain of God, right? Even the Horeb. Now watch who on the mountain. 2, and the angel of the Lord, Michael, the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of a fire out of the midst of the bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, but the bush was not consumed. They go the same fire, Lord of hosts. Same fire over here with Abraham. But because they worded the way they worded the King James, throw you off, you don't get that. But right here, he says, same flame, right? I'm over here again in let me get it. Okay. Yeah, 11. And he built the altar there and sacrificed all these. And he poured their blood upon the altar and divided them in half and laid them over against each other. But the birds he divided not. Birds came down upon the pieces. Abraham drove them away, and he did not permit the birds to touch them. It happened when the sun had set that an ecstasy fell on Abraham, and in such a horror of great darkness fell upon him. And it was said to Abraham, know of a surety that your offspring shall be a stranger in the land that is not theirs, and they shall be brought into bondage and afflicted for 400 years. The nation also whom they will be in bondage will I judge, and after that they shall come out from that place with many possessions. And you will go to your fathers in peace and be buried in a good old age. But in the 4th generation they shall return here, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. And he awoke from his sleep, and he arose, and the sun was set, and there was a flame. See that? Same flame over there. Moses. It's a being. And there was a flame, and a furnace was smoking, and the flame of fire passed, see that? Between the pieces. Same being. Lord of hosts, right? On that day, the Lord, not Yahweh, not Jesus, the Lord made a covenant with Abraham, saying, to your offspring will I give this land, from the river Egypt to the great river, to the river Euphrates, the Kenites, the Kezites, the Kodamites, the Perizzites, the Rephaim, I'm not pronouncing these names right, Horites, the Havites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. The day passed, and Abraham offered the pieces and the birds and their fruit offering and their drink offering, and the fire devoured them. And on that day we made, see that? On that day we made, these, like I told you, these angels telling the story. On that day we made a covenant with Abraham. In the same day we had a covenant, we had a covenant with Noah in this month. And Abraham renewed the festivals and the laws for himself forever. So let's look at this, because I went over this. I did a video on this. And this right here is major. It's huge. Right? I'm just going to kind of, I don't want to digress, but I'm going to show you what's going on, right? So it says, verse 20, and that day we made a covenant with Abraham, right? Now watch this. He made a covenant with Abraham on that day in the same way we had covenant with Noah. See that? We go back to Genesis 1:26. Let us make man in our image, right? I know not JC, like that bullshit John talking about. So he says, 20, on that day we made a covenant with Abraham in the same way that we covenanted with Noah in this month, same month, right? So that's why it says ain't nothing new under the sun. And then it says Abraham renewed the festivals and the laws for himself forever. So what are you talking about? We read a couple of weeks ago that the flood is when you're dealing with the feast days and all that. The feast days is they're going back. They are in remembrance of what happened with Noah, and all Abraham doing is renewing them. And then when we got to the land of Israel and in the temple, we renewing the covenant that the Most High did with Noah. The feast of all those, the feast of that, like you said, one of those feasts had to do with the first time Abraham saw the mountains after the water receded. Another one was when he got off the boat. All those festivals is in remembrance to what happened with the Most High and Noah, the Lord of hosts and Noah. And then when you get to Abraham, he's renewing them festivals. It ain't got nothing to do with no JC or the New Testament. Okay? So anyway, then it says, Abraham rejoiced and made all these things known. See that? So Abraham rejoiced and made all these things known to Sarah, his wife. He believed that he would have an offspring, but she did not bear. Sarah advised her husband Abraham and said to him, go into Hagar, my Egyptian maid. It may be that I shall build up offspring to you by her. And Abraham listened to the voice of Sarah, his wife, and said to her, do so. And Sarah took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, and gave her to Abraham, her husband, to be his wife. So you see Abraham doing the same thing Adam did. He conversating with, like I said, that person that came in the cool of the day, the Adam wasn't Yahweh. And it wasn't JC. It was the same being right here. So anyway, he says, and Abraham allowing Sarah to do what he did to Adam. Said Sarah advised her husband Abraham. That ain't what he told him. Sarah advised her husband Abraham and said unto him, go into Hagar. This ain't what he told him. My Egyptian maid. It may be that I shall build up offspring. That ain't what he said. Okay. He said, you're going to have a seed from Sarah out of your loins, right? So 23, Abraham listened to the voice of Sarah, his wife, and said to her, do so. And Sarah took Hagar, her maid, an Egyptian, and gave her unto Abram, her husband, to be his wife. He went in unto her. She conceived and gave birth to a son and called his name Ishmael in the 5th year of this week. And this was the 86th year in the life of Abraham, right? So that was chapter 14. Any comments, questions? Okay, 15.
Brother Leonard, how much time are we saying a generation runs?
A generation where it started out was one. Remember, he told Adam, one day with the Lord is 1,000 years. That's how it started out. That's why before the flood, all of them is living 900 and 800, 900 years, but because of what they had seen, neither one of them made it to 1,000 years. Methuselah only made it like 960. After the flood, he reduced it down to 120 years. And the reason it was 120 years was because of Noah, Shem, and okay, let me see. There was Noah, Shem,
Japheth, Noah's son.
No, Methuselah, Noah, and Shem. They preached for 120 years before the flood came. So that's why he reduced it down. And then later on, it ended up being 70 years.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. And so that's to these days, that's what we counted a generation?
Yeah, 70 years.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir. I'm listening.
Right, 10 years. Right. So then 21 says, 22. Sarah advised him, read that. 24. He went in unto her, she conceived and gave birth to a son, and he called his name Ishmael in the 5th year of this week. And this was the 86th year of the life of Abraham, right? Now I'm in chapter 15, my bad. It says, in the 5th year of the 4th week of this Jubilee, in the 3rd month, in the middle of the month, Abraham celebrated the feast of the first fruit of the grain harvest, right? That's when you understand what's going on. It's pointing back to Noah, okay? 2. And he made new offerings on the altar, the first fruit of the produce to the Lord, a heifer, a goat, a sheep on the altar as the burnt sacrifice to the Lord. Their fruit offerings and their drink offerings he offered on the altar with frankincense. The Lord appeared to Abraham and said to him, I am God Almighty. Examine yourself, demonstrate yourself before me to be perfect, right? So why is that so significant? Ain't that what he said about Noah? The reason why he chose Noah was because he was perfect in his generation. And he's telling Noah, Abraham do the same thing. Verse 3, Jubilees 15:3. The Lord appeared to Abraham, said to him, I am the God Almighty. Examine yourselves, demonstrate yourselves before me, and be perfect. And I will make my covenant between me and you, and I will multiply you greatly. Right? Abraham fell on his face, and God talked with him, and he said, my law is with you, and you will be the father of many nations. Neither shall your name anymore be called Abram, but your name now, from now on, even forever, shall be Abraham. For I have made you the father of many nations, and I will make you very great, and I will make you into nations, and kingdoms shall come forth from you. I shall establish my covenant between me and you and your offspring after you throughout their generations for an eternal covenant, so that I may be a God. There you go again. That I may be a God to you and to your offspring after you. You may possess the land where you have been a sojourner, the land of Canaan. See that? So if you want to know what land it is in Genesis 15, it's the land of Canaan. And you will possess it forever, and I will be their God. So the Lord said to Abraham, keep my covenant, you and your offspring after you. Circumcise every male among you, circumcise your foreskin, and it shall be a token of an eternal covenant between me and you. And the 8th day, you shall circumcise the child, every male throughout your generation, him that is born in the house, or whom ye have brought with money from any stranger whom you have acquired, who is not of your offspring. Okay, he that is born in your house shall surely be circumcised, and those who you have bought with money shall be circumcised, and my covenant shall be in your flesh for an eternal ordinance. And the uncircumcised male who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin on the 8th day, that soul shall be cut off from his people, and he has broken my covenant. God said to Abraham, as for Sarah, your wife, here you go right here. This is what a lot of people getting sidebarred at. And God said to Abraham, as for Sarah, your wife, her name shall no more be called Sarah, but Sarah shall be her name. right? Then he says, I will bless her, and I will give you a son by her. See that? That's what he told me. Not Hagar. I will bless her and give you a son by her, and I will bless him, and he shall become a nation, and kings and nations shall proceed from him. Abraham fell on his face, rejoiced, and said in his heart, shall a son be born unto him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah, who is 90 years old, bring forth? And Abraham said to God, oh, that Ishmael might live before you. And God said, yea, and Sarah also shall bear you a son, and he will call his name Isaac. And I will establish my covenant with him, an everlasting covenant for his offspring after him. And as for Ishmael, also have I heard you. And behold, I will bless him and make him great and multiply him greatly. And he shall beget 12 princes. I will make him a great nation. But here you go. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac, whom Sarah shall bear to you this time next year. So Israelites, Isaac had Jacob. Jacob had the Israelites, right? So Abraham did according to God had said to him, and he took Ishmael's son and all that were born in his house, and whom he had brought with money, every male in his house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin. And on the same day was Abraham circumcised, and all the men of his house, and all those whom he had bought with money from the children of strangers were circumcised with him. This law is for all generations forever, and there is no variance of days, no admissions of one day out of the 8 days, for it is an eternal law, ordained and written on the heavenly tablet. Everyone that is born the flesh of whose foreskin is not circumcised on the 8th day does not belong to the children of the covenant, which the Lord made with Abraham, but instead they belong to the children of destruction. Nor is there any other sign on him that he is the Lord's, but he is destined to be destroyed and killed from the earth, to be rooted out of the earth, for he has broken the covenant of the Lord our God. Then here we go, 27. All the angels of heaven, all the angels of the presence of the Lord, and all the angels of sanctification have been created, already circumcised from the day of their creation. So these angels got private parts, in case you didn't know that. And before the angels of the presence of the Lord and the angels of sanctification, he has sanctified Israel, that they should be with him and his holy angels. Command the children of Israel and let them observe the signs of his covenant for their generations as an eternal law. And they will not be rooted out of Israel. For the command is ordained for a covenant that should be observed forever among the children of Israel. For Ishmael and his sons and his brothers and Esau, the Lord did not cause them to come to him, and he did not choose them. Although they are the children of Abraham, he knew them, but he chose Israel for his people. He sanctified them, gathered them from among all the children of men, and there are many nations and many people, and all are his. And over all the nations, he has placed spirits and authority. See that? To lead them astray from him. So that's Tower of Babel. 70 angels, right? So the earth was divided up by these 70 angels. Well, the Lord of hosts, the one that's dealing with Israel, he got the land of Israel, land of Canaan, Mount Zion. That's the area he got. That's why it says that, let's go look at it right there. That's why when you go to Daniel, right, chapter 10, and Gabriel tell him, look at it, Daniel chapter 10, says, okay, Daniel chapter 10, verse 20. Then said he, Gabriel talking to Daniel, knowest thou wherefore I came unto thee, and now I'll return to fight with the prince of Persia. That's a fallen angel. That's over that region, Persia. And when I am gone forth, lo, the prince of Greece shall come. That's another fallen angel over Greece. And then 21, but I will show thee, Gabriel talking, I will show thee that which is noted in the scriptures, the truth. And there is none that holdeth with me in these things but Michael, your prince. There it is right there. Michael, the prince over Israel. That's who they're dealing with. That's who the Lord of hosts is. Okay? That's who was sent to Egypt to get them and bring them back to his land that he received, the allotment that he got. He went and got them. That's why when Moses came to the mountain of God, that's why he was on the mountain. That's his region, that's his area. Then the Lord of hosts sent him to deliver the children of Israel out of Egypt. That's how he inherited them. Okay? So anyway, verse 32, this is Jubilees 15. But over Israel he did not appoint any angel or spirit, for he alone is their ruler, and he will preserve them and require them at the hand of his angels and his spirits, and at the hand of his powers, in order that he may preserve them and bless them, that they may be his, and he may be theirs from now on and forever. I announce to you that the children of Israel will not keep true to this law, and they will not circumcise their sons according to all this law. For the flesh of their circumcision they will omit the circumcision of their sons, and all the sons of Belial will leave their sons uncircumcised as they were born. There will be great wrath from the Lord against the children of Israel, because they have forsaken his covenant and turned aside from his word and provoked God and blasphemed, because they did not observe the ordinance of this law. And they have treated their genitalia like the Gentiles. That's where we at right now. So that they may be removed and rooted out of the land, and there will no more be pardon or forgiveness to them for all the sins of this eternal era. Okay. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, so I did not know about the different angels and the location and everything like that. So that was really an eye opener there.
Yeah. So that's what that is you go back to, remember at the Tower of Babel?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, at Tower of Babel, that's when he everybody was speaking Hebrew. The angels speak Hebrew. They brought that down, and then so because they spoke one language, they was able to build that Tower of Babel, where the angels came down and they scattered them broad over the whole earth. And then from that point on, he divided the earth between those 70 angels. And Michael got the land of Canaan, where the Israelites said.
Yes, sir.
Mount Zion, yeah. Right.
Just I never, heard it. I'm listening. Thank you. I'm listening.
Okay. Yeah. So like I said before, once you get that revelation on who the Israelites dealing with, everything else start falling in place. Like I said, it's 3 angels came in Genesis 18 to meet Abraham. Yahweh ain't with them. And Abraham goes out and bow down to one of them. That's the Lord. That's who was in the Bible. That's who the Israelites dealing with. Not Yahweh, because Yahweh is a consuming fire. He can't deal with nobody. So he created those 7 angels to do all this bidding for him. And Michael is over them. Right. And his name tells you that. He who is like Yahweh. Right. And like I was saying before in previous videos, all you have to do is go and look at it. I mean, it don't really make sense until the information is revealed. So why would he make Joseph second in command with all the power that he possessed? Or why not make him the king or the Pharaoh? Because he ruled in heaven from second in command. He's ruling under Yahweh. So when he raised Joseph up, he rose Joseph up second under the Pharaoh. And then Mordecai. over in the Persian Empire. He rose Mordecai up to second under Artaxerxes. That's the reason that's happening, because that's where he ruling from. He's doing the Most High bidding. Yeah. Anybody got anything else before we go? So yeah, like I said, Joseph, you know, it's 337-802-0889, and then when I can get your information, then I'll be able to send you the link, and you can come in class and engage if you feel need to. So anybody got anything else before we go? Okay, I'm gonna say shalom.